Welcome everyone to this Seaside seminar. And today we are very happy to have with us our new committee member, Dániel. And he is a PhD student at KTH in the Department of Control System Engineering, and also has some expertise in this topic. So I will just leave it over to you. Welcome.
Yeah, okay. Thank you for the introduction. Well, today, as you can see, we are going to talk about anxiety and depression in academia a little bit. And well, I kind of put a bit more focus on depression, but since one kind of leads to the other and there is a lot of overlap, we named it anxiety and depression in academia. And most things I'm going to tell about depression also works for various types of anxiety-related problems. So let's get started. The question is, why am I presenting this? So as you can see, I had in my academic journey experienced different countries, different universities. And in all of these universities, I was actually a very top performing student. So a very top performing student, very perfectionist, very sort of, hardworking, stressful student. That's going to be important later on a little bit. I have a history of anxiety in my family, as well as in my childhood as well. And as you might have already spotted, I have PhD in Zurich as well as in Stockholm. And the reason is because when I started my PhD in Zurich, I actually experienced a very serious episode of depression. And I actually had to abandon my PhD and restart it here. And that is kind of the reason why I believe it's very important to spread awareness of this issue, since it had such a impactful period in my life. And I also kind of feel that a lot of other people can relate to this. So let's get started. I designed this presentation around these four main questions. The first two are the most important. How can you imagine depression, or what is it actually? And who is in danger and how much danger are we in? Then I will have a little bit of brighter topic. If you happen to fall into depression, how to get better. And I also had the last 2-3 minutes on just tell a little bit about how people reacted to what happened to me, for example, and maybe how can we think going forward in academia to tackle this issue a little bit. So let's start with discussing what depression really is. So I'd like to start by addressing some sort of misconceptions. It is not sadness. In fact, it is a quite serious illness. So serious it can actually be potentially life-threatening. People cannot just snap out of it like this. And it is actually characterized by a complex set of symptoms. So it's not just sadness, it's a complex set of symptoms, various different things. We will see this. It does affect every aspect of your life, depending on the severity, but even mild depression can have an effect on various aspects of your life. In fact, you can even show depression in brain scans compared to a non-depressive patient, or maybe this is even the same patient in two different states. So it is not just an emotional state, it's an illness that you can kind of show in various other ways of your body functions. Okay, but let's dive a bit deeper into what it really is. So I collected most of the symptoms and I kind of arbitrarily put them into these three categories. So this is not an official categorization, but I kind of wanted to highlight that it's not just an emotional, but sort of a physical response of your body that characterizes this illness. Since this is a mental illness, the most important, of course, is the emotional one. You constantly feel worthless. And you blame yourself for even the smallest things, even up to the extreme or irrational. You feel completely hopeless in your situation and you feel that you cannot be helped, even up to the irrational. You start losing interest in the things you used to like hobbies, spending time with friends, everything, and you sort of close yourself in a glass cage. You experience mood swings. Depressed people can look extremely happy sometimes, or even jolly or erratic even, and maybe a couple hours later it's at the other extreme and they feel extremely down. Rumination, some of you might know this, some of you might not. This means that you're kind of circulating, chewing thoughts in your head that are extremely sort of painful without any sort of conclusion continuously. Dissociation, this is also might not be like a well-known concept. It is kind of detaching yourself from reality, like looking at reality from a passenger seat of a car rather than the driver's seat. It's like watching a movie. Something's happened, but you feel like you're detached a little bit. So this is kind of how you feel. But you also experience more physical symptoms, like anxiety that you also feel in your body, even panic attacks, even physical pain, for example, a stomach pain that is not real, it's psychosomatic. But you can experience it, you feel irritability. It's when, for example, you're going home after a long day and then the train is late and there's a crowd and you just feel like, ugh. Every minor inconvenience is kind of torture, but you feel this really tensely. Cognitive impairment, meaning anxiety does have a huge effect on our memory, on our decision-making processes, or ability to focus. And it can actually be quite extreme, even experiencing depression. Memory issues are also common. Crippling fatigue, this is not your average sort of tired after a long day, but you kind of feel like you're unable to do even the smallest things. Get out of bed, for example. And what is often very indicative is sleeping or eating issues, like eating too much, eating too less, sleeping too much, sleeping too less. For example, sleeping 13 hours a day, then you probably have an issue. That's not normal. And well, the dangerous one, suicidal ideations. This is an extremely deep topic, and well, we could talk about this for hours, but I would just want to highlight one thing. Here, I believe that suicidal thoughts are not a decision, rather a symptom. So when you, for example, have a heart disease, you might be in danger of having a heart attack. The same way, if you are having a mental illness such as depression, you are in danger of having suicidal thoughts. And when people enter these thoughts, they kind of enter an altered state of mind when they start losing a little bit of control. And that's when bad things can happen. So if you, for example, experience suicidal thoughts, then you can take precautions to stop these from developing. And that's actually, I think, the message that I want to add here, that it's a little bit of like with the heart attack example. So all in all, the whole thing affects every aspect of your life. Like a hurricane, it kind of breaks down your foundation in your home. And very quickly, it can become a major problem in your life, the major problem, affecting your work performance, your long-term career, long-term physical health even, and of course, your relationships as well. So it's a very serious set of symptoms that are not just symptoms, but sort of affect your life as a whole. So, are we in danger? Well, I like to use this example again, that mental health is a little bit similar to physical health in some ways. If we live an unhealthy lifestyle, we can expect health problems to pop up. So depressive symptoms, for example, can happen to almost any of us, or most of us, or actually any of us. So this is a mental illness that can develop in practically anyone. But to be more specific, if you have genetic, like a history of mental illness in your family, you probably have some genetics that you inherit, or a generational trauma, meaning that 2, 3 generations ago, some trauma happened in your family, and that can be passed down in generations, causing symptoms. Now, these are not necessarily causing depression or anxiety-related symptoms, but increase the likelihood of these to occur. And even without this, you can develop depressive symptoms. This just increasing the likelihood. And the most important, circumstances. This is kind of what sets up the scene for these symptoms to develop. For example, living a very stressful life, difficult living conditions, also poverty or abusive environment, negative personality traits such as being a top performer student or being very perfectionist or pessimistic, social isolation like COVID actually increased depressive symptoms. Maybe we can even relate. Chronic illness like pain, back pain, or anything like this, or hormonal imbalances, meaning, for example, postpartum depression is a thing because your hormones are all over the place, and that also affects your mood as well. And there are things that can trigger depressive symptoms very quickly. For example, loss or grief, any kind of loss, maybe job, maybe you lost your, I don't know, house or car or something. Traumatic event, meaning physical or emotional, and sudden changes in life, meaning, for example, you move to a new place. That can also trigger symptoms because it's complete, even if it's a nice place, your whole life changes at once, and it can be very stressful and sort of trigger symptoms. But how much danger are we in? How common are these symptoms? So, according to the World Health Organization, about 5% of the general public globally suffer from depressive symptoms, meaning it's also like clinically an illness, so not just a little bit of sadness here and there. There are, of course, geographical differences. This is actually the suicide rates in Europe. I think it's 2012. I like to highlight my little country over there. That's a rather jolly statistics. We have one of the most depressive anthems in the whole world, I think. And well, by looking at the state of our hospitals, for example, I cannot, I can understand why the statistics is like this. That is also like geographical, cultural differences that can have a bit of effect on how we deal with depression or how it actually forms. But what is more important to us is the statistics in academia. Now, without telling out loud, just think of a number of how many percent of us working in academia do you think suffer from depressive symptoms? The actual number is about 40%. And I've looked at different studies in this, and they all estimate about the same thing. This is graduate students, by the way, so not all academia, but focusing on graduate students, and moderate to severe symptoms of depression that is also clinically validated. So it can be considered an illness, actually. This is insane. It's almost 1 in 2 people, 2 graduate students, and it's about 8 times as high as in the general public. So it is a very huge issue, and actually working in academia is quite dangerous if you think about it. Now, this issue started to gain some awareness lately. A lot of studies popping up that kind of try to show this issue in various terms. For example, this one, very interesting, is the likelihood that you will take antidepressive medication relative to the start of your PhD. So this PhD starts right there at 0, and the likelihood that you will take antidepressants sort of skyrockets. And I can actually relate to this. in my life. So why is academia such a risky place? I think if those who work in academia can somewhat relate. I think maybe many of us experienced most of these. These are just some of the examples I collected. You have insane academic pressure, publish or perish. You sometimes have to work long hours or even over the weekend. You have short-term contracts or often have to move to another country to get a job. Lower salaries compared to industry. And some institutions develop the research culture that is very unhealthy in general. These are just some. I think you can also relate to some or maybe even add some to this list. So that's a little sad. But if we happen to develop symptoms, what can we do? It's actually a good news because we can do things, but it's an illness, so it's not going to go on its own. Okay, so it's not that we kind of let it do its thing and then it will just go away. You have to deal with it. You have to seek help. But very effective treatments exist today. And actually, surprisingly, like I don't know what the general sort of population thinks of going to a psychologist, but that's not just it. There's a lot more techniques, and they work very well by now. And this is an improving sort of science, so we can have better and better treatments. But compared to sort of physical health, the doctors cannot heal you or cannot treat you directly. They have to teach you how to treat yourself. I think that is a huge difference. You have to put the effort in order to get better. And all in all, I feel that the main message is that it can be temporary and treatable. So if you do develop symptoms, you have to take the actions, but you can get better in relatively short period of time. Okay. So, but what does sort of professional treatment look like? Well, we've got the normal therapy sessions with the couch that you see on television. We also have something called cognitive behavioral therapy. Some people might know this term. In general, they kind of try to teach you how your mind interprets information and how you can use that to your advantage in your healing. For example, if you tend to see the world in a very negative light, you can learn how your sort of mind filters out the good things and see the world in a bit more realistic sense, and that can help your healing a lot. Meditation and mindfulness. This actually comes from Eastern cultures, but it's by now a very well-studied method that can reduce your stress levels very effectively without using medication. It's actually quite good. Assertive communication. This is a technique that helps you communicate your needs to your surroundings so that you feel better in your skin a little bit. Psychodrama. This is insane. This method is this method is really effective. I've seen miracles happen, so to say. I don't want to go into the details, but for deeper emotional sort of issues that you've been living with for years can unfold themselves very quickly within a couple of minutes, and it's usually done in groups, actually. Same holds for art therapy. It's also a very effective way to deal with deeper emotional problems, for example. This is not the treatment per se, eating, sleeping, and exercising. It's kind of like a golden triangle of how to get your mental health better without even dealing with your mental health. Because if you kind of get your sleeping, eating, and exercising habits into a healthy sort of region, then your mental health starts improving on its own. It's very, very quickly. And hospital treatment. Now, this is a little bit like in the movies. Honestly, people were kind of envying me for going to hospital because they've seen how much good it did to me, and they wanted to go as well because they realized they had issues in their life that they want to work on. It was kind of like a summer camp. I made a lot of friends and hopefully my future wife as well. We met there. So it's better than Tinder. I can recommend going to a psychiatric hospital. So apart from professional help, for example, my coping strategy also involved other things. It was a kind of a complex strategy, including medication as well as building my own support system, family, friends, um, etc. So it's important to have like a complex strategy. Okay, so just right quick in the end, I want to kind of mention how people reacted, learning that I have these issues, and how I dealt with sort of that. So, for example, family, friends, colleagues, how do they react when they learn that you have issues? Now, I was very lucky that most people that I was in my surroundings, families and friends, were extremely supportive. And without their help, I wouldn't have been able to get better. So that is very important. Not all people could be supportive, though. Some people will just not know how to deal with it at all. I mean, that's an important, like, that's a difficult topic. Some people don't know how to handle it. That's fine. And some people can get frustrated. And this is why you seemingly look fine, but you're incapable of doing basic things. That's incredibly frustrating. And the reason why people can get frustrated is because they don't understand, they cannot relate, they don't understand what's going on. And I think that is also an interesting takeaway. So, workplace and university. Well, I think this is actually a very good illustration. Even the hair matches my former supervisor. I believe they were not very understanding of this issue, and in general, you can expect institutions or universities not to be very understanding. Universities may differ, so I don't know what's going on. For example, well, this was my experience, and that later on, a little bit more difficult experience I had with explaining sort of my little health issue compared to this insanely powerful sort of institution, and you can kind of feel like not taken into account very much. So that is also something that can occur. And in general, in the job market, and this is specifically a little bit towards the job market, I was a very performative student, so I had a lot of, like, I had to work very hard, but I had a lot of opportunities also ahead of me. After going through this depressive episode, there was a seeming change in the kind of opportunities and number of opportunities I was able to target. And I kind of felt like a glass ceiling was forming on top of me. That was a very interesting experience. I do believe that it really, and in some cases, very specifically connected to this very bad period that I was going through. I do believe you kind of get into so if you go through something like this, you can get into a worse position when finding jobs or opportunities or anything. So it can hurt your career very badly. And yeah, you also sort of can feel a little marginalized if you go through something like this. Well, in the job market, it's not very good of a, I don't know, very positive if you go through like a rough patch. So all in all, most people are supportive. So do reach out to people if you have issues. That's extremely important because they cannot help you if they are not aware of you're going through something. Some people will not be able to relate. That's okay. They might get frustrated, but that's life. So you can, although, learn how to communicate strategically. So you have to help others to be able to help you. If you communicate strategically, the assertive communication, for example, even the ones that feel frustrated can help you a little bit. you have to protect your work rights. Actually, this is considered to be an illness. If you get a doctor's note, you'll have some protection in some countries, not all. Academic institutions, I believe, are not yet prepared to deal with this issue, especially at this scale. They have some things already going on, but I don't believe, for example, in my case, it was it was the opposite. And I believe awareness and dialogues in this topic, especially in academic environments, could spark some changes in dealing with this issue, because as you can see, these are not personal issues, it's a large scale thing going on. And that is kind of, I think, the message or the purpose of presentations like this. I'm very glad that the Coaching in Science initiative exists, because I think this is an incredibly important sort of issue.